So I'm going to address the topic through the prism of the paper, the publisher, the protagonist and the academic setting. I couldn't find a P for academic setting, so it doesn't quite rhyme, but it gives you a feel of that they're all interlinked in some way. Publishing ethics is really well described here by this publisher. Academic research involves the task of publishing its findings, taking place in a highly complex socio-technology system, which involves several dynamic interactions, blah, 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 and we're only talking about a couple of those. That's the author, the publisher, and the university sector. So, and we've heard a number of speakers this morning talk about those other interactions with funding agencies and regulators and so on. And as a representative of a young university, all those come into play in a day-to-day life for me. So I do come from a young university, the Queensland University of Technology, and I have to give you this prism because it kind of tells you something about not just the window view that I have in my role, but I think many young universities have in their role. This is sort of like the grandma's book of baby photos that you bring out when you're at a dinner party. But I come from a university, and it is my alma mater, and I didn't think I was going to be working there at the end of my life, or the end of my work life. But I happen to be there right now, and I have been for the last 4 years. We're highly reliant on self-reporting of publication errors, reporting by others, either researchers, co-authors, etc. And of course, you know, if I read my email on a Monday afternoon, which is probably your Tuesday morning, I'm reading Retraction Watch, and if I see that the number on my phone is 3131888896, it's the Vice-Chancellor saying, who's this in Retraction Watch? So the protagonist. So we all know the growing body of research that tries to describe who the protagonist may look and feel and smell like. And they provide some useful hints, and we've actually used this research in helping us do a number of activities that will help us lift performance in certain research groups. So we know that multiple publication in low-ranked journals, behaviours that may be less desirable in the workplace. If you put a couple of these characteristics together, we probably have research groups or researchers that we would like to support in different ways. And we go about that in a couple of different ways as well. We understand the pressure to publish, although the notion is more likely to be confounded by situational and cultural factors. And Australia being situated 30 hours away in a long-haul flight is increasingly populated by students from Southeast Asia, India, and the Middle East. So, and some of those cultural nuances we haven't really got to terms with ourselves, but we grow every day when we are tackling issues such as this. We also understand the demand for transparency and accountability to ensure researchers practice their craft in a manner that demonstrates integrity. And the discussion we've had today, particularly around research data, is one that we see as a priority going forward. We know that there are emerging emphasis on transdisciplinary research and the challenges researchers have working across discipline and the tradition of across their own disciplines, and then of working in a transdisciplinary collaboration. So that in itself, and if you think back on the earlier slide where I presented our ambitions, a lot of that research is about situating our institution with collaborative groups that work across disciplines, and breaking the traditional model of being a chemist or a physicist or a medical oncologist or whatever that may be, those disciplinary boundaries become much more permeable, and the skills required for researchers to work across a transdisciplinary continuum brings its own challenges with it. Most of our funding agencies now require that there is some dedication to transdisciplinary research, and that certainly won't go away, but it means that we have to work in a different and smarter way when we're talking about responsible research practices. And we genuinely know that there are errors that occur for a range of reasons other than it being a deliberate, reckless or a negligent act, and we try to use those opportunities when those events do occur to make sure that researchers feel supported going forward. And in fact, we work so hard at doing that we involve them in all our development of our guidelines where appropriate. So the publisher. Well, you're a very diverse group, and it's been an interesting morning for me sitting here because I'm hearing very common themes that an institution will experience, and I'm sure vice versa for you. There'll be bits in my discussion and my following presenter about commonalities that we share. Some of my frustrations lie with this hierarchy of contacting people, and sometimes it's very difficult to navigate who at a publishing house I might need to talk to if I'm requiring some dialogue with a publisher or an editor. And from time to time, that kind of hierarchy feels pretty impenetrable. And we know that there are international standards for editors which look and feel good. I don't know how they play out in your world. And to me, as a reader of those, they seem quite fair and reasonable. And, you know, if that was truly how we all worked, it would be much easier for us to have this dialogue. And when it comes to correcting the public record, our respective processes, I think, probably rub up against each other because we have a window that we look through a problem or an issue in slightly different ways. So for the academic setting, we aim to lead from the front. We've spent a lot of time upping our profile, and only recently I was wandering around one of the faculties and I saw one of our placemats, which is just an A4 pinned up on somebody's wall about how to do a certain activity, and I'm thinking, now all I need to see is all the ORI stickers over doors and windows, so we know that we've had a win. In our setting, we've produced guidelines around responsible research practices, and they're readily available on our site, which is ori.qut.edu.au. And I should have put that up here, but I can share that later. And we have a number of online resources to accommodate different media use. So we know that there are people who won't want to come and listen to anybody, and they're happier to click on a short video which we have online. So we've got a number of short video presentations that allow people to attend to those learning needs, or they can attend a number of our research training sessions. And we run things like a drop-in clinic and scheduled training for things like ethics or integrity or publishing ethics or whatever it may be. And we're growing that portfolio as we become more mature and we find out what works and what doesn't work. And we spend quite a bit of time doing analytics around how, who attends, why attends. We post-hoc all our, or we post-analyse all our feedback and move and shift things to be responsive to our academic community. We also cover issues such as post-publication responsibilities and why it matters, and I think certainly I hadn't actually turned my head much to this until I sat through one of Jenny's presentation, and there was certainly a light bulb moment for me about how we might complement that going forward. We do provide publication authorship training, and we do use originality software, primarily I authenticate or turn it in. And we also do bespoke training at a school or a faculty when there's been an integrity matter that's arisen. And we monitor research approved by an ethics committee, and that is usually those people that we know the literature might say your project might need a little bit of an oversight. So that's what we do, but we use it in an educative way. And then we do a whole lot of other targeted stuff, which is often one-on-one or small group education and training to try and address shortcomings in practice. So in the academic setting, our priorities around research publication ethics is when we've had an investigation of any sort is to correct the public record. That's our primary imperative, and we do that as promptly as we can. What hinges off the correction of the public record is our institutional reputation, the integrity of the reported research, as well as the trust by our funders. So we're very diligent around making sure we keep our funders informed, that we report to any authorities, and there are from time to time other regulatory bodies or even professional registration bodies that need to be informed if there have been events that come into question or have been proven to be questionable practices. But we need to do this in a really timely manner, and no investigation or no assessment happens quickly. From more recent experience, the protracted delay in having a paper retracted caused re-agitation and set off a series of activities that required another full investigation of a matter, which ended up in the higher education supplement, which wasn't a really desirable place for us to be. But the paper simply needed to be retracted. And then there's also the collateral damage of managing the co-authors who may actually be quite innocent in all this, and they may be young career researchers and find themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place. And for the beginning careers of higher degree students and collaborators and funders. So, I think we all want the same thing. We might have, a different window in which we look through these matters, but we all want the same thing, and that is publication integrity. And here's a few of my suggestions for that. We've got a new arrangement with COPE as an institutional member, and we don't know what that looks like yet. I don't think we've totally, smelt the roses or anything else. But I think this is a good opportunity for us to look at a roadmap or some sort of pathway forward and look at workflows, models that identify key decision points and processes. Because there are key decision points and processes in what you do and what we do, what our funders do and what our collaborators do. I think this collaboration, this membership arrangement also extends to the opportunity to look to international collaboration with other leading agencies like ORI in the US. ARIC is the Australian Research Integrity Committee, which is a subset of an advisory committee to our National Health and Medical Research Council. The Tri-Agency in Canada and the UK are RIO. All those institutions have gravitas and they have leadership, and I think the membership lends itself to developing those collaborations with those organisations, as well as the university sector. And we certainly have representation at a high level across the nation that could really help make these processes a lot easier. And lastly, I think a development of a joint statement of standards for managing publication retractions and corrections would be really ideal. What COPE has now is very much COPE-centric, but if we're to work together, I think we can come up with some set standards.